Hello, everybody, and welcome back to CDL this week. We are on to the 9th episode now. This has gone through quite quickly. Obviously, hosted by myself, camallenn.
And me, Horizontal. And we've had lots happen this weekend in LA. Lots of close games and some upsets. So stick around as we get into it.
Yeah, lots to talk about to the LA weekend. Obviously, we'll kind of just touch on those. Only I think a couple of topics of news really this week. It was a bit of a dry one leading up to the LA home series. But speaking of LA, obviously Optic made a role change that we briefly touched on. It might be a good idea over the last couple of weeks. And Mudog obviously released a video on the Optic Twitter stating that Slash was moving to the main AR role and Dashi was moving to like that kind of flex, kind of full-time MP5, obviously using then the M4 and like maps like Azir Cave and stuff. But a little bit of a role change, and it kind of seemed to work out for them. But obviously we'll touch on that a little bit later. But have you got any kind of thoughts on the role change?
I mean, we talked about it for the last, I think, couple of weeks, and that we both thought that was how Optic needed to improve. And I mean, not saying that we do know our stuff, but obviously we had the right idea, and
we do know our stuff clearly.
Yeah, clearly. So the fact that came out like just after last week's episode and before LA, I think that was a really good move for them. And I mean, we saw it pay off, and we'll get into that, but definitely the right move, and hopefully they can keep moving up from here.
Just got a bit of a question for you about Optic, really. What do you feel about? Obviously, they've got a lot of hate since the start of the year to do with obviously the Switch and Hector and the main
branding,
the branding, keeping the Optic branding, and people are like, oh, you shouldn't be doing this. But then they had a lot of fans, it seemed, at the weekend. You know, there was some old Let's Go Optic chants going, which I was quite surprised about, to be honest. I just kind of want to know what your thoughts are on this kind of differentiation between some people hating on them and then clearly some people at the actual series supporting them.
I think that was always going to be the case. There was going to be a split in fans because at the end of the day, yes, Optic was a huge org in COD beforehand and it had like a cult following, but not all of those fans will have followed Optic because of Hex. There will be a lot of those fans that have just followed Optic because it's such an old name, and some of those have obviously stuck around, and they're like, yes, it's a shame that they probably feel that, yes, it's a shame Hex lost Optic and it's not quite the same Optic, but they're not just going to abandon following Optic after all these years. It's a weird one. I think I personally was like, obviously, it sucks to see that that's how Optic went. And at the start of the year, probably was a bit against the fact that Optic was still able to keep their branding, but it's grown on me. I think they're managing to push past it and turn it into like their own Optic. So honestly, I think you'll see their fans grow.
I'm the same. At first, I was a bit like, because obviously, you know, a lot of people have been watching Optic for God knows how many years. I was a bit the same, you know. I was a bit like, oh, why are they still doing this? They shouldn't be using the same branding. But I mean, now the season's kind of getting into it. I like the players they have on that team. I think they could actually be a pretty dominant team, you know, if they sort it out. I mean, they seem to have sorted out a little bit this weekend after the role change and everything. I think they will not necessarily gain a lot of fans, but I think they will have people wanting them to win more than teams like, I don't know, maybe like Toronto or New York and the LA Gorillas. I don't feel like they're going to be the most like the team that people root against the most.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think they're going to keep some fans and always going to have like a decent fan base. I think if anything, it's just that initial hate towards them will die off because none of the other teams are trying to build the storyline of like a rivalry with Optic.
It's only LA, really, isn't it?
Yeah, and even then, I wouldn't say that they are trying to build it too much. So I think that's like initial hate will die off, and it'll just be people just get used to the fact that this is a new Optic, and if you want to support them, you want to support them.
Do you think there's a rivalry between the Huntsman and Optic?
No, I think that was pushed at first, and they tried to make it happen.
Yeah.
But with Hex coming out and saying there's no bad blood there, and Scump even saying there's no rivalry, like the players in that don't want the rivalry, so it's kind of just died off.
What I think there might be some kind of per se rivalry is if Optic become like a top team, but I think that'll be more based on the fact that they want to beat them because they're a top team, not because it's Optic versus Huntsman. I agree. I don't really think there's much of a rivalry there. But there could, like I said, there could be the rivalry if Optic become a top team just because they want to beat each other. You know, a bit like how there's a bit of a Chicago-Atlanta rivalry at the moment. But it's not really a rivalry. It's just it's more of a who's the better team.
Exactly.
And to be honest, I don't know. I still want to see that matchup now, especially after Atlanta did lose. But we'll obviously touch on that in a little bit. Don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves too quickly. And then some really exciting news, not too much based around the CDL, but just Call of Duty Modern Warfare related, is that Warzone got announced about 4 hours ago or something, and then it's being released tomorrow, I believe it is. Tomorrow at 3 p.m, I think it is.
Yeah, so obviously I think it was like a week or so ago we touched on it, that they'd teased there was a Battle Royale coming, and then about 4 hours ago there was suddenly this 24-hour timer or something popped up. So I think 3 p.m. UK time if you own the game, and it's like 6 p.m. if you don't, because they made it free to play. I think it's a good move. It's going to help bring a few more players back in to the game, because a lot of people obviously struggled with enjoying pubs and the core game. At least Warzone's going to bring in something a bit new, and hopefully it's a success and it goes down well.
Well, I mean, hopefully there's some streaming content there, because we've been trying to get back into it. So hopefully there's hopefully there's some good content to be made there. But obviously that's kind of really the only news we kind of have this weekend. Well, not this weekend, sorry, from this whole past week. Not really much going on, so we might as well kind of hop into talking about the LA home series this weekend, and kind of we'll start off with kind of what your opening thoughts were on the event. Like, how did you think it went? Like, on the production side, did you enjoy the event?
I think this was probably my favourite event, apart from London, because I was actually there. But I think to watch, this was my favourite event. Went a lot smoother. I know we can both agree that stats went off without a hitch for once.
Oh God, it was delightful.
It actually feels like they've got that locked down, and feels like they're in a bit more of a groove now with the stats and how to be showing these games. Like, they seem to be in a good groove with showing them afterwards and talking over them. And I think that was just the case. Like, it just needed a bit of time for them to get used to this new setup and how things would run. But for the whole weekend, I think it was a really good weekend. I think it went well. Obviously, we'll get into hype battles later, but not the best.
let's wait a bit to rant about the hype battles this week. My kind of thoughts were, I'd agree, stats went bloody lovely. I don't think we had a problem with one game. It was all so smoothly. That doesn't even make any sense. It was all so smooth. Like, you even had the casters being like, now let's look at the stats. They're really, it feels like they're trying to push it a little bit more now. And the whole production crew, there was a couple of sound issues that me and you spoke about earlier. Just where a couple of voice clips were being like played on loop by accident for about 2 seconds. But other than that, I thought the whole event went really smoothly, obviously, apart from the hype battle. But they were obviously ahead of schedule on the Saturday, which was really helpful. We actually got to bed semi-early on the Saturday, I think. Yeah, still about 5 a.m, but...
Yeah, I think we got to bed by 5 a.m. when the last game was meant to start at 5 a.m, so about an hour ahead, which is good.
It was decent. But obviously then on the Sunday, over schedule, even though they were ahead of schedule at first... but I mean, I can't even be asked to wait to talk about it. Let's just talk about it. The hype battle. What a shit show that was! Oh my God, it was awful.
Don't get me wrong. I am also against hype battle, but I fully accept the fact that it's not going anywhere. Especially when the commissioner was on and she was like trying so hard to hype it up, and that it's this good thing to have. But I know we both talked and we both like tabbed off and switched off at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And every time I looked back, the game was paused. There was some controller issue. Something else was going on. I also think the talent this time that they've got on, other than obviously our own boy on the
Miles.
Other than that, I was like, I don't really care about these guys.
I just remember waiting for it to start. And so it took it. I tweeted out, because I didn't know it was before the semi-finals this week, so I got really confused when the Optic versus Dallas game wasn't starting, and I already tweeted out like my next match is this, blah blah blah. Your predictions have Dallas winning or whatever it was. I tweeted that out, the game didn't start. My tweet said it was over an hour from when I tweeted that out to when the game actually started. I don't know the exact timing, but it took. I remember I obviously tabbed off because I don't really care about the hype battle, and I was like watching TP's latest YouTube video, I think, and was kind of I obviously had the COD stream muted. And I just kept going back onto it just to see, like, okay, are they nearly done? The game hadn't even fucking started yet. I was like,
Yeah.
what a waste of... It's just a waste of time.
It was so bad. It's like I was tabbed out watching LCS, so following League for my other stuff. And it's like every time I looked over, there was controller issues. Then they managed to play the first few rounds. Then there was controller issues again. And then they paused. But then the other thing was, it's like, okay, yes, there was production issues. But there was no... Like, even if there wasn't, I wouldn't have wanted to watch it. And I think the issue is they're trying too hard to bring celebrities in. And if they actually want the hype battles to work and to have the interest of the COD fans, you need COD content creators or content creators in the gaming space. Like, imagine if you had a 2v2 of, I don't know, Courage JD and Dr. Disrespect versus, like, Hex and Hitch. Like,
yeah.
That would be a lot more entertaining for the fans because it's people they know, people they watch, and I kind of feel like they have someone to root for. Like, if you had people in the space, a bit like Atlanta tried to do with their one, like there was recognizable people.
Yeah.
I think it would work a lot better. But then also, it's like, we've said it before, like it just pulls away from the weekend and fans just aren't behind it. And it kind of adds in a pointless break.
The problem with this one is that Miles, you knew immediately Miles was about 400 times better than fucking Todd Gurley and King Back. And even Michael B. Jordan was far better. The teams were so unmatched, it was pointless.
Oh, yeah.
But at least you're right. At least if they have people that create, like content creators or whatever, are playing in these hype battles, it would be better. Yeah, I'd probably watch it. Like, let's say for the Chicago event in, like 4 weeks. I really hope they have TST. Plus, Hector. TST and Hector.
Yeah.
That would be sick.
TST versus Umu, Old Man of Optic.
Yeah. In like a 3v3 or something.
Well, 3v3 or even just 2v2.
Yeah.
You just have like Blake and George with Hitch hyping them up, and then you have like Hex and Diesel. Like, there's a lot better ways they could be doing it, and I think if they don't try and switch it up in that direction soon, it's really gonna struggle. And I'd love to know if I know there's probably no way to find this out, but I'd love to know the stats of how many people like tab out or mute the stream while the hype battle's on,
or even just turn it off. I might go back and kind of see how many views the hype battle. I don't think it would tell you now actually, but I didn't look live, but I can almost guarantee it dropped by half. Like I can't imagine half the people like wouldn't have tabbed, like they just would have clicked off. Like no one's interested in it, and the only people that are still on there, you're right, are probably tabbed out or got the stream muted because it's just not interesting when you've got shit players. Like it's not enjoyable to watch. Like they were sat in that fucking crate on shipment off their spawn. It's like what? Yeah. It's not enjoyable. At least the FaZe one at Atlanta. They had the FaZe lot. You know, they kind of had a little competition leading up to it. And then they kind of took part. I know I didn't watch it because I was busy trying to do some stat stuff. But, you know, at least that seemed more enjoyable because they were all good at COD. Whereas on this one, King Batch and Todd Gurley didn't even look like they picked up a fucking controller before. So it's probably going to be a regular theme on this to rant about the hype battle.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's going to be our weekly rant. But the commissioner, she was on and chatted, and she was trying to push it a bit. But then she also talks about how they are listening to the community and trying to improve constantly. So I just hope they've listened to the fans before about different things. Let's just hope that they eventually listen to this and realize, okay, we need to take this in a different direction if we're going to keep it. So yeah, we'll just have to see by the end of the season how this progresses, and if it gets to a point where we actually semi-enjoy it.
I doubt it. I'll just say one more thing. It's not a hype battle if no one's fucking hyped for it.
Agreed.
That's just my 2 cents. Let's move on. There was a trophy this weekend, although I don't think a lot of people actually know there was a trophy.
Well, I didn't until you told me.
Yeah, I didn't know until I looked at Reddit. But apparently there was a trophy, but it wasn't shown. I saw someone put on Reddit due to some branding issues that it wasn't CDL branded or something.
So
Yeah.
apparently it was branding issues, and the CDL didn't want to show it, and people are then presuming it's because it wasn't CDL branded. But I don't think the Atlanta one was. So it's either the Atlanta one was CDL branded, and we didn't realize, or it's something they've realized afterwards and have changed. One thing I saw on Reddit was they're actually doing this so that they're going to actually start doing their own trophies. So rather than showing all these different ones, they kind of try to keep it consistent.
Well, hopefully
But
they
it's
just
it's
provide
just
their own.
yeah, I think it would be better if the CDL just provided a trophy. But I also do think it's cool, like if the home series do their own to match like the home city. But then it's like, yeah, I think it's just weird that they didn't show it, and it kind of just makes the ending seem really off. Like it just doesn't feel like the event ended properly.
Well, do you want to know why else the event didn't end properly? I was, busy inputting or doing some tweeting or whatever. Obviously, I had the stream on tabbed out, but with the sound on. And then Lottie was on I think it was Lottie was on the stage, and she goes, "Thanks for watching." Yep. They didn't even break down the biggest game of the weekend. Like that match, that game, the final was incredible. It wasn't as good as the FaZe Minnesota series, but we'll touch on that in a bit. But it was still an incredible series, almost a reverse sweep. Dallas clutched up. There was plenty of talking points, especially in that game 4. There was so many talking points. Like, I can't believe they just ended the stream.
That's a good point. This feels like it was another London situation.
It may well have been that. That was the first thought that popped in my head.
Like, because obviously they were over schedule, and if that's the case, come on, they need to realize this is the hype battle that's constantly putting them in this position where they run out of time, and then it just ends abruptly.
It was mental. I was like really looking forward to them breaking it down. Obviously, having it tabbed out, I just wanted to kind of listen, and nothing. They just ended the stream. They started playing the outro music, and I was like, "We're done." Like what? Honestly, mind blowing. Couldn't believe it.
I suppose they had a good Atlanta. This is a bit of a poor ending again. They've just got to hope. Like obviously, this is the third event now, so hopefully it just gets better.
I think there is just one. I will cut them some slack a little bit. Obviously, I get that it's a third event. Things should have been stepped up. Things have been stepped up, though, in the production. Obviously, with the stat stuff, they are improving things. We're not just here to slag them off, because I'm really enjoying the league so far. But there are still these kind of underlying things where, they're still learning. I think that's the best way to put it. They're still learning. It's the whole COD scene got revamped this year. And I feel like the people in charge, obviously it was mainly Adam App was obviously in charge for the last like 5 or 6 years. He's been there and done it all. He knew what he was doing, trophies, there was everything, they didn't have hype battles. And I get that's because it was run differently. So I just think this year is almost just like a learning. It's like a learning curve for the league. So I try not to be too harsh. There are things I will be very critical on because I have an opinion, as we're all entitled to our own opinions. But they are still learning. And so there are ways you have to cut them some slack.
Yeah, you do. You do have to kind of try and remind yourself that probably a good 50% of the people running the CDL now is completely new to it, and they're trying to build something brand new, and they haven't got like a base to start from. They're trying to start from scratch, basically. So there is going to be a learning curve, and I'm sure each event will slowly get better. Like we're finally seeing good stats, so that's an improvement already. And there'll be a lot of other little things that they slowly will start to improve over time.
Yeah, I mean the commissioner, I think she said she's just come over from working in the NFL for years, so obviously it's different. Not really been involved in esports before, so she, it's a learning curve. We got to cut them some slacks, and I'm happy to do that. So. But we might as well get started to talk about the games. I'd just like to say I am probably one of the only people in the whole world that predicted that Minnesota would beat FaZe, and I was completely 100% serious. That I was serious because of the way I spoke about it. You're just salty that I got it right.
Yeah, maybe. I am gutted that you were right. It's just it's just the fact that I'm not going to hear the last of this now.
It's because it was a ballsy prediction, but I just like I said, I just had that feeling. I almost just knew they were gonna win. Like I said that how close they played FaZe at Atlanta should have won the series 3-0, maybe 3-1. They should never have got reverse swept. It was, to me, they just look like the team that can apply that speed with Asim. With Asim being up front, just being an absolute like menace on the map. I think he only had like a 0.8 over the series, but because he was such a menace, getting up in their faces, it just allowed the others to just play around him. Whereas I don't think there's a lot of teams that can do that. And London also played Atlanta close because they've got people like Dylan and Jerd that can really get in your face. There aren't a lot of teams that have these kind of hyper aggressive players that can, try and keep up with that pacing of FaZe. And that's like talking from like a proper analytical standpoint. That's why I had an inkling that Minnesota would win.
If anyone was to beat FaZe, it was going to be ROKKR. I just hoped that FaZe had just learned enough. Like, it was like the fact that they were able to pull it back last time. And I mean, this, like, when ROKKR did beat them, it very nearly was FaZe winning. And I'm sure we'll get into that later with that hard point. But, like, they are very closely matched. And it could have gone either way. Just ROKKR had the slight edge, obviously, like you predicted. But I'm sure it won't be the end of me hearing it. And
no,
to be honest,
I'm done talking about it. I'm done talking about it.
One thing is, if they hadn't won and FaZe had won, I definitely would be gloating about the fact that you picked Toronto and you were wrong. You picked ROKKR and you were wrong.
No, but I wasn't wrong about Toronto. I wasn't wrong about Toronto because I said Toronto would play Chicago close. I never said they'd beat them, did I? I said watch out for Toronto. They will play Chicago close. Even the fucking professional analysts were like Chicago 3-0. Your boy here. I said Toronto will play them close to Chicago in the Atlanta event, and I said Minnesota would beat Atlanta. Ballsy predictions, and guess who was right? But anyway, I'm done talking about that. We'll get onto the group matches here. So we'll start off with Group A. I've lost my mouse. Where are we? Here we go. So Group A was... It doesn't even tell me which was in the groups.
Yeah, they've changed it. But if I remember correctly...
I've got it loading here. Here we go. So the first game I think we had was Atlanta versus Florida over in Group B, actually. It was Group B.
It was the rematch of Atlanta finals. FaZe came out looking like FaZe.
Hot.
Really?
They came out hot. I think the Florida, obviously losing 3-0 Florida, I think it came partly from having a sub. It's not that Pharaoh's a bad player, but obviously you've got to have teamwork, and obviously they had maybe like a few hours of scrims in the back, maybe a day or so of scrims to kind of get used to playing with Pharaoh, and that's not enough time when your first game is against best team in the game. Exactly. So I think we all expected a 3-0.
We did, and to be honest, like Muniz did well in the first half point. They kept it close, 220 to 250. So the fact that they were able to do that with this new lineup last minute was a decent performance for them. But then, straight into Central Shore and Atlanta 6-1s them, and I think that just knocks Florida.
Yeah.
And then you go into the domination, and I'm gonna say it from this point on. Like, I actually think FaZe might be the best team at domination. Like, they seem to be the only one that has control of the spawns and situations the most. And I don't know whether it's just pure chance, which probably most of the time it is, but I think they have the best strategies on domination.
I heard someone say, I can't remember who it was, I think it was Chance. He said they're the only team that's willing to go for that AC like hold.
Yeah.
Because they're not what they like you said, they're good at controlling the spawns. So they feel like they can hold the two flags. If they're struggling to get B, they'll just send someone on that flank to go and get A or C, because they don't mind. I feel like they can play from either side. I don't know if I'd say they're the strongest domination team in terms of maybe like map win percentage. I'm just trying to get it up here for the season. But they are good. They've got a 77.78 win percentage, which is the same as Chicago. So,
right.
I mean, they are a good team.
That makes sense. Two top teams.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it was just something I noticed this weekend that FaZe always seem to have a good control of spawns and have this like strong strategies on domination to kind of make it work more in their favor, considering it's such like it can go either way as we've talked about. But yeah,
Yeah,
they
domination is
won the
such a swing
domination.
game mode, isn't it?
Yeah, they won the domination and they beat Florida 3-0. Nice
Yeah,
and
it was
simple.
nice and quick, that one was. And then we
Yeah,
jump over, I think it was ROKKR versus Surge was our next game.
it was. So
It was a good game actually. I thought Surge looked decent. I feel like they looked a lot better with Panda. I think Panda dropped like a
they did.
0.93 or something over the weekend, which was pretty good. Coming in substitute, only a few weeks maybe to practice with the team.
Yeah,
I
so
thought he looked good.
it was a close hard point, 235 to 250. So ROKKR a little bit slow off the gate, first game of the weekend, and Surge looking good, like you said, with Panda. He seems to have slotted in quite well and helping them perform that bit better. But yeah, ROKKR wins the first hard point. Search and Destroy close again, 6-5.
Yeah.
Seattle taking them to these like final rounds, and then domination. Oh, sorry, Seattle took the Search and
Yeah, I
Destroy
was going to say,
6-5.
I thought Seattle took the Search, yeah.
They did. And then yeah, domination went to ROKKR, and second hard point 250-208. So not as close as the first hard point, but and more in favor of ROKKR, but still running it towards the end there for Seattle.
Seattle definitely look a lot better. They seem to have played their matches close. In kind of not at first, obviously. I think they look better. I think they need more time with Panda. I think Panda's actually a really good player. He'll just kind of, he likes to play OBJ, so I feel like he's going to be kind of sharing that kind of time with Octane. I think they both like to be in the hill. So I think they're going to get better. Just got to give it a little bit of time, I think, to kind of mesh with Panda.
Yeah.
I mean, the rest of these teams, bar a couple, I've been playing with these rosters since the start of the year. So, you've got to allow an event maybe for Seattle. They go away, you've got 3 weeks. I'm not sure if they're at the next event. I haven't actually looked. But if they are at the next event, I feel like we could potentially see them doing a little bit better. I definitely wouldn't write Seattle off for the season by any means.
No, I wouldn't. I think this was an improvement. They're starting to look better and starting to, like we've said in the past, Octane's been frying but hasn't had the support, and it seemed this weekend he started to get a bit more of that support behind him.
Apathy looks to be playing well. Panda looks, pretty good slotting in, and then Slacked and Karma. I mean, Slacked looked better. I didn't think Karma had a fantastic weekend, but we know that he's not going to drop the flashiest of stats. He's not going to have the flashiest of plays the whole weekend. He's going to do your dirty work. So I feel like every team needs someone like that. But we'll move on to a team that I kind of have written off so far in New York. Yeah, Dallas definitely haven't written off. Definitely a top 3 team at the moment. But New York, fuck me, they looked abysmal. I mean, I know they took the first map in this. I just don't think Dallas. I think Dallas took it lightly.
I think exactly what you just said. Dallas came out on the first map probably thinking this is going to be a fairly easy matchup. It's New York. Maybe took it just a little too slow, and it was close, 250-219, but yeah, New York got it. But then after that, New York just couldn't get it in their way. Like, I don't think Happy was the right move for them.
What was it? What I said last week, where I said, "Is Happy going to come in and change your team?" No, he's not going to make you a championship-winning team. He hasn't played since Black Ops 3. I think they said it was. Zero is a good player, but obviously there's been rumours that Zero might be going to London instead of Rated. But we can maybe touch on that in a little bit. And there's obviously they've now bought in Mac, have New York, so maybe we see Mac Melts go in instead of Happy, which I think will probably happen. Like we said, Sense is probably never going to get on this team. He's there for branding. No. As much as he tries, he drops 4 kills in Hardpoints. So
yeah, so it was like they got the first map. But then after that, it's like Dallas 6-4 on Piccadilly, 170-141 on Domination, then 250-222. So they were close rounds, but I think that all just came down to Dallas coming off a bit slow and maybe taking this a bit too easy.
100%. I don't really think Dallas... I think Dallas just knew they're better. They probably just went, let's just play our game. Probably can go 70% here and we'll beat them. And that's probably why they lost a map. Which sucks because otherwise I think my bet would have come. Oh no, it wouldn't because the next game didn't work. So my bet wouldn't have come through. But Dallas probably should have 3-0'd them if they'd have come out
They should.
fighting at 100%, but I don't think they did. So, and
in
then
the grand scheme, it didn't matter.
so game 4, we had the Battle of LA. You know, we had the two host teams going up against each other in the Gorillas and Optic Gaming.
And
strange
like I predicted,
one.
the first and only time.
What would you mean? What was your prediction?
Well, my prediction was that this was the first and only time that the LA teams would fight it out, and it was. But first map went to LA Gorillas, which I think surprised me a little bit, because obviously Optic Gaming came out looking good with the role changes, but then obviously everyone kind of was unsure about this LA Gorillas. They had 3 brand new players. I was like, oh, is this actually working for them? Is this gonna is this the Gorillas?
I thought the same.
Like, if they found the setup, and is Optic still struggling? But even though it was close, 234, 250, it's a close hard point. But Gorillas, I will give them this: that Gorillas are looking a lot better. And
they did in this game. We'll get on to their next game afterwards. But
I think but at the same time, it's hard to be any worse than they were. So
that is true.
I think for a brand new roster, they did really well, considering that they were literally thrown together the week before. So first map went to LA, second map 6-5 search. I mean, a close search and destroy.
Choked
and
by
Optic were up 5-2 in that search and destroy.
They completely choked it. Like they choked the first map as well. They should have won. I heard the casters saying they should have won this 5-0. They should have won all 5 maps. Obviously, they did come back and they reverse swept LA, but they should have won 3-0. Or as per se, they should have won 5-0. They should have won all 5 maps, but they should have easily won this 3-0. This Gorillas team is not good. It's. I mean, I know they hadn't had much time to play together, but fuck me, they looked awful. They looked awful in the first 2 maps. I thought Vivid carried them in the search and destroy, and I know Vivid's a very, very good S&D player. I think it was last year he had a 17 streak against MV at Champs, which is what really put him on the scene. Hardpoint, Optic just choked it. I feel like they were ahead and then they just probably let their foot off and they were like, we've basically got this, only need a few more seconds. And Gorillas came back and just played good for a short period of time. And then the next 3 maps weren't, I don't think they were that close, were they? Have you got the scores?
No. 186, 132 on domination, which is now close.
Not close at all.
250, 186.
Not that close.
Which is what the first hard point probably should have been. And then search and destroy at the end, 6-3.
Yeah, not close.
I think by that point, it showed that this is a new LA Gorillas team, and they'll have lost all momentum by that point. Like, you've just lost 2 maps in a row, top tick, when you were 1 off, possibly beating them. And yeah, Optic responding, Optic stepping up finally.
Massively. I thought Optic looked really good. I thought they looked a lot better this weekend. Obviously, they won 2 matches out of their 3. The TJ, I think he had like a 1.1 on the MP5 role, which is pretty good. Dashi was almost back to the kind of Dashi kind of form. There was a few flashy plays out of him. Not kind of Dashi of Black Ops 4, because that was kind of a different breed. But Slasher, fucking hell, Slasher was unbelievable this weekend. I knew, but putting him back to that main AR, he has to be a main AR. And I know I wasn't the only one saying that. I'm not going to take all the praise for saying that he should be on a main AR. But you agreed with me. All the people on the desk and all the kind of pros are being like, why is Slasher not on a main AR? And I think Dashi kind of egoed it at the start of the year. I think he probably went, no, I want to be main AR, and Slasher probably just went, okay, fine. They were getting dicked, and they've done the right move. So
yeah, I think you're right there. I think probably Dashi wasn't feeling playing sub on this Call of Duty and pushed for him to be an AR, and Slasher was stepped back and allowed it. But I think at this point now, after this weekend, you can't have Slasher doing anything but AR. Like, I think he's proven the reason that he needs to be on that role, and Dashi's just gonna have to learn to sub. Like, he will improve and he'll find his groove.
Yeah.
But this Optic's a lot stronger in this like setup. So
I think we'll see Optic trying to play a lot of Isaiah Cave this year, because obviously that's kind of like a 2 AR heavy map. Especially with those kind of like long lines of sights, like lots of head glitches on Isaiah Cave. So I think we'll try and see them a lot. I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot of teams trying to ban it against them and trying to play them on maybe like a Hackney
Yeah.
or a like a map where it's a lot more like fast paced. Maybe like Ramaza. There's not too many like kind of big head glitches you can sit on as an AR. So I think we're going to see a lot more out of Optic over this season now. I think they're going to start to move up the rankings and people's power rankings and stuff like that. So I would definitely be starting to bet on them maybe in some series in the future. And we move on. I think the next game was
winners for I think it's Group A, is it? Atlanta, FaZe, and Dallas. So the first winners match. I mean, it kind of went as expected, really. FaZe 3-0 Dallas. I think this kind of just shows why Dallas isn't quite a top team yet. I think FaZe just looking like FaZe, looking dominant. The first hardpoint though, 250 to 241 was close. I think it was just FaZe had a strong early lead in the hardpoint, and then it was just Empire managed to claw it back a bit, but not quite enough.
FaZe, I don't think that Dallas match up super well against FaZe. I feel like the AR battle can easily be won by Dallas, but I don't think that Illy and Shotzi can keep up with the kind of pace that Hook will try and set against a team like Atlanta. I feel like when you've got players in Atlanta, you've got Simp, Celium, Abizi, and Priester. There aren't a lot of people that can keep up, or even you can even take Celium out of that and have the other three. That's very hard to keep up with for those three Dallas players. They're not. I know that Hook is a very, very fast-paced player, but with him now running stuns, not running stuns, he's running trophies in smokes. It's very, very hard for him, to try and make those plays, those fast-paced plays around the back without dead silence. So if Dallas and Atlanta match up again, I really feel like Shotzi and Illy are going to have to pick it up because they're going to have to really try and match that pace that Atlanta set.
I think it's just what you just said is correct. Like Illy and Shotzi just really need to. They're still so early and learning a lot that these FaZe guys are just outmatch them, and just the way that they play the game is such a curveball probably to those new kids, and it's like Dallas is always going to. I think until they've stepped up, Dallas is going to struggle every time against FaZe.
I think next event. Sorry, go on.
Oh well, Search and Destroy went 6-3, and I think that just showed that Dallas is a strong Search and Destroy team, but FaZe just was all over them.
What map was that on? Was it Piccadilly?
It was Piccadilly.
Yeah, I think. I don't actually know who's good. I don't actually know who's that good on that map. I know that Minnesota are probably the best at Piccadilly. I think they've beaten FaZe on it twice now.
I think that's proven. I'd say Minnesota's probably the best, and Piccadilly, and then FaZe probably second best.
Oh, S&D teams, FaZe is definitely the best, but just on Piccadilly, Minnesota are definitely the best Piccadilly team. So I wouldn't be surprised if we're seeing teams trying to ban that against them. And then obviously the domination, was that a bit of a blowout? I think it was.
It was 149, 139, so it was close.
Okay, it was quite close.
But FaZe were like always that little bit ahead, and just like I've said, like they're good at controlling the spawns and keeping enough control throughout the game to kind of keep that lead.
Agreed.
So 3-0 against Empire, sending Empire down to the losers run, and they went off to the semi-finals.
And then next match I believe was
Losers.
It was Florida versus New York.
It was.
Again, New York. I don't really want to linger on this game for too long. To be honest, it was a bit of a average match. I know Pharaoh had quite a good series, as did Skies. Skies was nasty all weekend. Florida, though, with the sub, didn't look too fantastic, which kind of, to me, sums up how shit New York were.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, both these teams had new players and roster changes, and it's like Florida was doing okay, but not the best, obviously, all weekend, but they managed to beat New York, and I think that just shows that New York's definitely the changes they've made are not working, and they're going to have to go back to drawing board.
Still don't think they should have got rid of Zero, but let's not linger on that one any longer because
No.
that was not an enjoyable game. Let's be honest.
And just like the last thing, that was New York out, and that's another
Oh
weekend.
yeah,
I'm
of
pretty
course
sure
it was.
that they've got knocked out
First.
within their first 2 games.
Yeah.
So
Not
really
looking good. So we're probably going to see another roster change coming in with Mac. I would have thought probably coming in for Happy, or maybe we see Sensor. Who knows? I doubt it, but it would be quite funny. I'm not going to lie. Oh, just imagine Doug on the main stage again. That is class. I would love that. To be fair, it'd be fucking funny, especially if he dropped like a 0.6. Oh, the memes. There'd be so many memes.
There would.
Anyway,
maybe one day. But moving on to the next, we had the winners of Group B, I think it was.
Yeah, Minnesota
ROKKR.
and
ROKKR versus
Los
Optic.
Angeles. Yeah, good game this was. No one expected this though, especially me. I mean, I was back in the ROKKR boys the whole week.
You must have worried, yeah.
Oh, I was very worried. I was thinking, oh shit, my predictions are fucked. I was like, that's £5 down the drain. Obviously,
Optic. It was a close hard point, really. 250, 208. I think it was just the last hill. Optic. I'm pretty sure it was looking in favour of ROKKR, and then Optic just managed to turn it around on the last 2 hills, if I remember right, and hold that last hill in Azir Cave. Yeah, from what we saw last weekend and like what to expect this weekend, like ROKKR should have really been all over Optic, especially after that big roll over Seattle, looking strong already for this weekend, and then Optic comes in 250, like wins the hard point, then wins the S&D 6-3, and it's like, what's going on, ROKKR? Like, this is a completely different Optic to probably what they expected to be playing, and I think it kind of proves that Optic is finding the grooves, because they basically just beat the second best team of the weekend here, and ROKKR struggled. I don't know if it was just they underestimated Optic.
Thing is, I don't think ROKKR looked like they came out slow. It didn't look. It looked like Optic just, outplayed them. And I think it's just as simple as that. I think Optic just outplayed them across all 3 maps. I think there was a comeback in the domination, if I remember correctly, from Optic. Or did ROKKR nearly come back? Oh, they didn't come back. Oh, okay. I thought there was a comeback. Maybe they just smoked them then. But yeah, I mean, not really much to touch on with this one. I mean, Optic LA just looked good. I think honestly, you can't beat around the bush with it. They just look good.
And I think it comes back to as we've said already, the role changes. It's just definitely working in favour of Optic.
100%.
They're just gonna keep getting stronger, I think.
I agree. And then next game we had the Seattle Surge versus LA Gorillas. Just a couple of things really to touch on with this one. Octane 43 and 19, 18, I think it was, something along those lines. He absolutely smoked them on the first hard point, and I believe it was the first. Oh no, it was the first 100-point club we'd had of the season.
It was 250 to 79. I
think the worst we'd seen before was ROKKR beating Chicago
Ultra.
250 to.
Was it not Ultra?
I thought it was ROKKR because they won that first hard point 250 to 107, I believe.
I can't remember.
I think it was. Maybe it was Toronto. Either. I know that it was Chicago who had 107. But now we have the new lowest of 79, held by the LA Gorillas. Who else? Not surprised, really. Rubbish team. They're not good with those ranges. With those changes. Not impressed.
I think I'd like this. They're in a tough situation right now. They had to change something. I think we talked on it last week. I think they changed some of the wrong players and maybe too many players in one go. And they struggled this weekend. The fact that Seattle was all over them on that hard point just shows that they are not a team that's like, they're just not in the right place right now. And part of that will maybe have come down to the fact that they had like less than a week playing together. But yeah, Octane, and this is a Seattle though. As soon as Octane's got this backup, they start frying.
Yeah, all 5 of them were positive, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, I think, yes, you can take the fact that LA Gorillas is a poor-looking team at the moment, but the fact is Octane got the support, and as soon as everyone on the team was like frying and playing at their best, Seattle looks good.
Yeah. This is what I mean, first 100-point club of the season. No one else can say they have a 100-point club of the season.
Exactly.
So at least Seattle have maybe a couple of things going for them, and they got Octane, and they have a 100-point club. Other than that, maybe a few things. I know App was pretty good in S&D this weekend.
Say, S&D was 6-1, and Apathy nearly broke, I think, a
he went
record there.
15-2, if my brain remembers correctly. 15-2, I believe. He was disgusting, like absolutely off his rocker. And that's not even a play on words, because it wasn't anything to do with ROKKR. But
and that's the thing, I think. If we start seeing Apathy perform that well in Search and Destroy, and then you've got Octane performing as well as he does in Hardpoints, Seattle might start to find a bit more of their groove.
all they need is these other guys to be going, 0.9, like around evenish. And if Octane, is just doing Octane things, it's not necessarily that he needs to hard carry, but he just needs. If Octane's having a slower game, like we'll get onto later against ROKKR, he needs the other guys to pick it up, and I just don't feel like that's what you're going to get from Surge against these top teams. And Octane went off and they smoked him 3-0. I think he dropped 81 in the series, which is the most since we've dropped down to 5-minute dominations. I think Simp held the most at 86 when we had 6-minute doms. Now we dropped down, 81 kills in 3 matches. That's disgusting. It's filth. Disgusting. The man's an absolute animal, but like I said, if he can get that back up when he isn't, going off, he's going around even. He needs at least one person, maybe Apathy, Slack's got to try and pick it up a little bit, or even Mr. Three Rings. These guys have got to try and pick it up around him to enable.
They do.
Oh, that was quite a good pun. Did you like that? I didn't even mean that. For them to enable themselves to do better. That was awful, but that was actually really good.
That was awful, and you should be ashamed of it.
I thought that was good.
I think you're right. Seattle has a lot of potential there, and we're starting to see like inklings of how good they could be. They just need to pick it up, and maybe as the season goes on, we start to see them find that.
I think so.
Starts to work for them. But yeah,
LA sent home. Yeah, LA sent home. No surprise, they were shit.
Yeah,
I think Decimate was their only kind of semi-bright spot across all kind of the game modes or their matches. He looked decent. Actually, Aqua looked all right, but when you've got the two new guys going kind of 0.6 every respawn, you're not gonna win. You just not. If you've got two guys, I think Sparta had like a 0.3 or 0.2 in that first hard point against Seattle. Like, come on, is that good enough? No, not really. But we'll move on, because we can't really dwell on that one for too long, because it was a bit of a smoke fest, as was the next 2 matches as well. We had Dallas versus Florida. Yeah,
Dallas versus Florida. So this was the first game of Sunday, the second losers round. Yes. So Dallas came out 250-213 on Florida. Empire, I think, started off really strong on the hard point, and Mutineers managed to claw it back a little bit, but just not enough. And then Empire 6-4 on Search and Destroy. So Florida keeping it close on these rounds, but then the domination, only just really going to Dallas here.
What was the score on that one? Oh, they bought it. Was this the comeback?
152. This wasn't the closest one yet.
No.
I don't think.
No, that was the Dallas versus Optic one, I think. That was the really close one. We'll get onto that one in a minute. This Dallas, Florida, like we said, this was kind of, a good team going up against another good team, but with a fill-in who didn't really have enough time to practice. And I don't think Florida came in with too many expectations. I actually do like this Florida team. I said I wasn't sold on them, but I kind of have had my opinion changed, even though they only won, I think, 3. How many maps did they win this weekend? 3. I think they went 3 and 7 in map count this weekend. Not the best, but I am kind of more sold on them. I think with Pristini, they might be better, or if they maybe kept Pharaoh in. But I think Pharaoh's going to go elsewhere. I think Pharaoh's actually a really good player.
I think for the weekend, considering their circumstances, I think Pharaoh did as well as he could for a last-minute step in. I think he performed well and proved that he could be valuable to a team as a substitute. So I think he did what he needed to do this weekend. And Florida did as well as they could, really, considering the circumstances. I don't think looked terrible, and considering like the fact that Prestini couldn't go and they had that last minute step in, the fact that they were able to keep it fairly close with Dallas shows that they're looking good.
Yeah, I agree. And then moving on to the next one, another 3-0. We had so many 3-0s this weekend. It was mad.
Did
ROKKR 3-0ing Seattle.
Yeah.
I'm not actually sure how close the games are. I think you've got the scores there, have you?
Let me pull this up. So Azir of Hardpoint was 117-250. So
Oh yeah, they smoked them,
strong.
didn't they?
Yeah, they smoked Seattle. And this is the thing. We'd just seen Seattle the day before, last game of the day on the Saturday, smoke Gorillas on the same map, Hardpoint, and they just couldn't today. Like ROKKR came in and ROKKR did the opposite and smoked Seattle.
ROKKR are looking really good, especially when Alex and when you've got 3 top class players in Alex Assault and God RX. You know, if Asim and Silly, you know, they're dropping around kind of evenish. That's why I really like this team, because you know you're going to get big games out of at least 2 of those big 3 almost every time you step on the map. And if Asim or Silly, you know, one of them goes off and maybe one of their big 3 goes off, you know, this is why I think they're a really good team, because they kind of complement each other really well. They've got 2 players that will go up in front of them. They don't care about their KD. They don't care. They will just bait their lives out for you. And that is why these other guys are putting up these big numbers, admittedly. But, you know, they still have to be getting those trades and stuff. I'll preach about ROKKR to the moon. I think they're a really, really good team.
I think, I agree. ROKKR is a really strong team. And I think this match showed that Seattle is still that inconsistent, like we've thought in the past. Like, yes, Octane seems to show up week after week, but it's his teammates that are inconsistent. Like we had the day before, they showed up and had his back and they looked really good, and then today on the second day it was just Seattle struggled, and when they don't show up they really struggle.
I mean, like I said, Octane didn't go off and he didn't have anyone kind of picking up that slack. Haha. I'm on it with the puns today. I'm on it with them.
You are.
That was good.
Full dad joke.
I love it. Next map, 6-2.
ROKKR went 6-2, smoked him. So
God RX 12, God RX 12 and 2, Alex 11 and 4. Those guys were just going off all weekend, and completely the reason why they got to the final. And then the domination was pretty close.
Close, yeah, 160-154. So I think it was just ROKKR had a small lead going into the second half, and they just managed to keep that lead and just keep on top of it. But yeah, close. Seattle almost getting a map there.
Yeah, and then moving on, we had the second semi-final. First semi-final. Optic versus Dallas. Bit of a fiery match. You know, you got JCap and Clay. JCap and Clay do have beef, obviously, from last year. JCap and Krim obviously have that bit of banter where they have each other blocked on Twitter and that. And then you had TJ and Dashi versus Krim. You know, there was a lot of kind of storylines in this game that was interesting, that I was very intrigued about. There wasn't too much hype, which I was kind of upset about, but it was a good series. I thought Optic looked all right. I think
they did. I think so. The first map was 250-172 for Optic. So Optic came out looking good.
Yeah, they looked really good. I thought they came out and absolutely smoked them. Slasher went 31 and 18 with 2.5 minutes in the hard point.
Yeah, and Dashi I think was popping off as well.
Yeah, 35 and 23.
Optic was just all over the hills and rotating. Like they just had control on that first map, and I think that woke Dallas up.
100%.
I think the Optics proving that they can challenge these top teams. Like they're finding their grooving. They're gonna be a strong team to play against, and they're proving it here. And then went into Search and Destroy, and Dallas answers back 6-2. I mean, Dallas have always looked strong on Search and Destroy and proved it here. Optic just couldn't find their footing.
No, not at all. Which surprises me. I think Optic are actually a good S&D team. But this Dallas team is just up there. I think they're probably second or third best S&D team maybe this year. Maybe they're definitely top 4. I think the top 4 S&D teams are coincidentally the best 4 teams in the league right now. In Atlanta, Chicago, ROKKR, and Dallas. And then this game 3. Oh my god! I think this was probably the second or third best map of the weekend. This was unbelievable. Optic were ahead for all of the game.
So
and
Optic held the lead in the first, and then
they had the lead all the way through till past the 9-minute mark. At the 1 minute mark, they needed to hold one flag to win.
Yeah.
From that minute that it flipped. They had
to hold one flag.
Dallas then, I think they rotated round to C. I think it was Hackney Yard. They rotated round to C, decapped the flag at C, which then had them as a 2-0 advantage on flags. I think then there was about 20 seconds left. TJ pushed on to B. I can remember it so clearly. Clayster had a pistol out, gunned 2 of them on the B flag, and stopped them from decapping it with about 18 seconds left. It was unbelievable. If anyone's watching and they haven't seen this, you have to go and watch the ending to this domination game. It was absolutely unreal. The fact that Optic had to hold one flag and then lost. It was unreal.
But I mean, that shows how in domination, like, it can flip just like that. And it was the fact that they needed one flag and just small mistakes, and then that's it. They flipped it, and it's going completely wrong for them. Yeah, Dallas did really well to bring that back at the end.
Yeah, it was a fantastic game. And then into game 4, Dallas 250 to 204. Dashi had an absolute stinker. He went 13 and 27. I don't think we've ever seen Dashi have that bad of a map in his whole first few years of competing. That was I looked at the stats and I went, that can't be right. Went back and checked it and went, Dashi went 13 and 27. And I'm not going to say that's the reason they lost the map, but you can vouch that was him and TJ had been going off all weekend. He went 13 and 27. TJ went 19 and 27. I mean, you can almost put that down to why they lost the map, and the fact that Shotzzy went 28 and 13. But you know, when your superstars are going off,
Empire had that lead, and with Dashi not quite stepping up in that map, it probably cost them, because considering it was 250, 204, there was a few moments, if I remember right, where Optic could have, if they just clutched up, it could have started going more in their favour. But yeah, unfortunately.
What I noticed with Optic, I believe it was Ramaza Hardpoint, is that every time Optic had rotation, they held it for about 20 odd seconds, maybe with a bit of congestion. But then at 20 seconds left on the hill, Dallas were getting these 20 seconds at the end of every hill after contesting Optic. So after Dallas went up 84 to 19 after the second hill, they were just ticking over their points but basically keeping Optic at the same kind of pace until about the 6th or 7th hill, when then Dallas just kind of really took over. And I think that was the real swing point of this map, is that Dallas just kept not allowing Optic to kind of claim back onto that lead. And it just tells you that Dallas are a superior team.
Optic was just giving up those scrap points too early, and like Empire kind of realised this and capitalised on it. And if you're going to give up 20 seconds at the end and no contest, and Empire realises, they're just going to go, that's one person just needs to be in there, and that's 20 points, and it keeps that like score fairly even.
Ticks it over in your favour every time.
Yeah.
But this is the series we've been wanting to talk about. I've been waiting about 40 minutes to talk about this series. Wow. Atlanta versus Minnesota ROKKR. Fuck me, what a series. I don't even know where to start. I want to start on that map 4, but we can't.
Well, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. So, I mean, the matchup that everyone was kind of, I think, waiting for all weekend, everyone expected it to be in the final, I think. I think going into the weekend, if you'd asked a lot of people, they would have said, "Oh, the final's going to be FaZe ROKKR," but they met in the semi-final. ROKKR came out swinging and showed that, like, they are FaZe is kryptonite. I think
seems that way, doesn't it?
Yeah, 250 to 221. So it was a very close hard point. But ROKKR, and I think it was close the whole way through. And it was just those last couple of hills that I think ROKKR got just the right spawns and or was able to get onto the back lines and break the spawns in their favor that they were then able to beat FaZe. But yeah, the fact that ROKKR came out and won the first map kind of just, I think that shakes up FaZe.
It propelled them. It propelled them to have. Obviously, they then lost the second map, but it gives them kind of that. Obviously, it gives them advantage in the series, but it gives them that leeway to lose these next two maps, which did happen. Obviously, they went 2-1 down in the series, but imagine they lost this, they get 3-0'd. I know it sounds simpler than it is, but it stops FaZe from. FaZe hadn't lost a map all weekend at this point. I know they didn't play 2 games, but they were 6-0 in map count. Minnesota comes out, it knocks that ego a little bit. And then obviously FaZe came out swinging in the second map, 6-4.
S&D. Well, it was still fairly close, 6-4. They were trading rounds back and forth, I think, all the way, and then it just FaZe managed to clutch up the last 2 rounds in their favour. But I think ROKKR held their own, and considering FaZe is meant to be this really strong S&D team, ROKKR's proving that they don't let FaZe play S&D the way they want to play it. And I think this, even though ROKKR didn't win, they held their own. And I think going off what they knew the event before, where they actually took 2 maps off FaZe, they know that they can beat them. I think that's what kept them going through this. But yeah, FaZe 6-4, and then Insta Domination, which was
180 to 130.
Yeah.
There's not really much to talk about on this. I mean, FaZe just kind of dominated them from about the second half onwards. I think Minnesota went in with a very slender 5-point lead, and then FaZe just came out. I think they just held the 2 cap pretty much the whole time, and just never allowed Minnesota to kind of capitalize on that advantage they had going into the second round. So
I think it's going back to what I said about FaZe on Dom. I think especially on Hackney Yard, they really know how to play it on Hackney Yard. And I think that second half, FaZe got into the position that they want to get in and hold and know how to hold it. And then they just kept ROKKR out, and that was it, really. And then they held the lead. And I mean, at this point, ROKKR could probably really wanted to win the Dom, give them that boost that it's going back and forth. But I don't think they were going to give up then. Obviously, at this point, I was quite happy. I was like 2-1 up. Okay, maybe Cam's got this wrong.
Never.
And to this point right now, I don't think I've recovered from this next hard point. 250 to 247, and that doesn't even tell you the full picture.
No, it was
insane.
I think there's many adjectives and many words in different languages and anything you could use to describe this map. Oh my! So Minnesota had a lead after the 7th hill, so second hill of that second rotation. What map were we on? We were on Ramaza, weren't we? Yes, it was.
Yes, it was.
So we're on to the Electronic Shop hill. Minnesota have a lead of 195 to 147 going over to Barbershop. FaZe then get a massive hold. They're up 203, 195. Next hill, 231, 225 in favour of FaZe still. FaZe then going into after the... So it's then gone from construction over to the 5th hill, which is Arches.
Yeah.
I believe it was Celium was over by the Z or L or whatever you want to call it. I think it's L. The L side of the map. And he picked up about 4 or 5 kills in and around the hill. But because Minnesota had those close spawns, because no one from FaZe had pushed through, they just kept managing to contest the time. And they contested it enough. I think they sent 1 or 2 on rotation so early, which was very ballsy. But then after that hill, it was 247 to 236. Yeah, go on.
Was it FaZe went into that hill on 240 or something?
231.
231. And it was after they'd clawed back to that 231. And they were on the hill. And honestly, ROKKR just kept pushing in. And it got to 247. And Celium, I think, got 5 or 6 kills in a row.
Yeah.
Fighting. I don't know what that noise is.
That sounds nice.
Yeah. Sorry about that, guys. So Celium, yeah, he clutched up on I think 5 or 6 kills in a row to try and hold ROKKR off, but they just kept getting in and
Which he was
contesting it.
doing. He was holding them off, but they just kept
Yeah.
having that one person who kept coming in. They had the perfect smokes thrown in and everything ROKKR did.
And
They
that's
just
all
kept
they
the
needed.
congestion going, and then they
And it
got
was
that
like,
quick rotation over to
well,
construction.
it wasn't even the fact that it was a quick rotation. It was like FaZe thought they had it there, and FaZe honestly should have had it there, but the spawns flipped, and ROKKR kept contesting that point long enough that ROKKR could get in position for the next hill. And by the time FaZe realized we're not getting this, ROKKR was already in the next hill and already set up, and it was just. I don't think my heart was going because they were at 247, and then there was that sudden realization of the time's going down. They keep contesting, like they're not getting this.
Well, if you go back and watch the cast, you hear Benson. I think it's Benson. He goes, "Phaser in," and then he goes, "But it's a rotation to the new hill." And he was like, "Oh my god, they actually can't win here. They have to rotate." FaZe had to give up that time. I think they gave up about, I don't know, it must have been 5 seconds left. They couldn't win. And obviously, you're right. Minnesota got the blessed spawns. They managed to spawn themselves out somehow from that 5th hill, and got the rotation over to first, and managed to win. It was I think it was the game was made better because it kept them in the series, and we'll get on to the other Minnesota one in the final as well, in the game 4.
But I think
Minnesota clutched up.
This is the swing. That was the swing moment for this
100%.
game, and I think FaZe getting beat then with only 3 seconds needed. They went into Piccadilly, and ROKKR just smoked them 6-2.
There was no way ROKKR were losing this map after they won that hard point.
Yeah, after that, and we've already seen that ROKKR on Piccadilly against FaZe. It was I think this S&D that they beat them on last time. ROKKR just know how to play against FaZe on Piccadilly, and how to play it to their way, and don't let FaZe do whatever FaZe tries to do. ROKKR shut it down, and they just showed up.
Yeah, and I'm not even going to comment on it. We'll move on to the final. But we all know who was right at the end of the day.
Yeah, unfortunately, the 8-win streak came to an end.
It did. The 8-win streak came to an end, but I mean,
I'll be interested to see if anyone can match that.
Someone had to beat Atlanta eventually, and it just happened to be at this event, which is what I said. You know, they have to lose eventually. Why not at this event? And I was actually really happy that my prediction was right. And then obviously Minnesota then on to the final, playing against Dallas. Dallas went up 2-0 very quickly in the final. 250 to 181 in the first map. And then they also had a 6-4 in the S&D, which was a little bit close, but it never really seemed like Minnesota had kind of a foothold. Even then they got it to 4-all. It just, to me, it always felt like Dallas just had that advantage. I don't know how you felt about that map, but to me, that's just what it felt like.
It was a lot of back and forth, and ROKKR picked up the rounds where they could. But yeah, I think it was just, as you said, ROKKR never felt like they were in control of the search and destroy, and Empire just kept them at bay, played their game. I think especially the moment when it was bomb went down in like mid, and Crimsix just sat on it and just watched it, and they played it slow, played it their way, and there was times like that where ROKKR just struggled against Empire. But yeah, first 2 maps straight to Empire. I think this was the point where you probably were sweating a little bit.
Oh, I was, especially during this map 3 at the half. I mean, Dallas were up 80 to 66, just looking in total control. Even though they had only had a 14-point lead, they just looked so in control. And to be honest, they choked it after the 9-minute mark. Minnesota then somehow had a lead of 1 point, and then just managed to clutch up. I think there was a couple of moments on the B hill where it looked like Dallas got through, and then they just got a couple of clutch kills to obviously push it to that game 4, which was then another nail biter. But I think after this
first game 4 we've had in a final.
Yes, it
I think that
was.
was the other thing. It was like we hadn't had every final so far has been a 3-0,
Mm.
and Empire was looking like it was going to be the same case. But yeah, I think ROKKR. There was a couple of hills where ROKKR held off Empire and got in and clutched up at the right moment, and I think
Especially at the
gave them
end.
momentum
I think
just to keep this going.
I think the casters was saying, or the analyst, or whoever was saying, that on this game 4, right at the end, obviously Dallas somehow managed to spawn themselves at P5 for that final hill. Minnesota then spawned out at second with about 13 seconds left for them to get to the hill. Somehow managed to get there, managed to contest a little bit, and then they managed to get Hook out of top yellow, which then, as soon as he
Yes.
died, the Dallas guys were so far onto that blue van side of the map that ROKKR then spawned at yellow, which they didn't, which obviously Dallas didn't expect, managed to hit through that caravan side door, and I think Hook then pushed around the front, got 2 kills, and then got traded out right at the last second, and Minnesota won another one, 250 to 247, with their lives on the line. It was unbelievable.
There was even a bit more to that. There was, before that final hill, I think it was ROKKR had set up for hold. They already had set up spawns for that final hill and were spawning there, and then right before the end of the second to last hill, spawns flipped in favor of Empire at the worst possible time, because ROKKR was like one more hill away from getting the win anyway. It was close enough as it was, and then it's flipped, and Empire had the spawns, had the hold, were already set up, and it's a really hard hill to break. So the fact that this even went to ROKKR is just mind-boggling. And I think it's small things like the mistake that probably Hook was too far pushed up maybe than he should be.
No, he wasn't pushed up. He was sat in yellow, and then he got killed.
Contesting where maybe he shouldn't.
No, but he has to be there, otherwise they spawn there anyway. So he was where he needed to be, but they managed to kill him. And then
I think
that allowed.
I think it's just those things where like he probably thought it was done, so he was happily contesting.
That's what the casters said. He thought that the game was done. I don't think he thought they could get there. They managed to kill him, and then they lost the match.
Open up the spawns.
Luckily for
it
Hook,
went like.
I mean,
I think at this point you were ecstatic.
Yeah, I was. And then, like I was just going to say, luckily for Hook, they managed to clutch up in the final. Did Dallas in the map 5, 6-2. Never looked close on Gunrunner. Minnesota just looked burnt out. I think they were burnt out from those long series today. That was their 3rd series. It was obviously they had a very stressful one against Atlanta and nearly managed to bring it back. It would have been fairy tale if they won it.
And I think ROKKR just struggled to read Empire on the search and destroy, and like there was moments where it's happened a few times so far this season. Like Clayster just gets the flanks, like the late flank, and like ROKKR just not expecting it, and then Clayster picks up these rounds where because people are just forgetting about him on the going on the flank, and it's ROKKR struggled at the end, and unfortunately, and Empire gets their win.
Hook was a bit of a machine though, 13 and 5, 4 first bloods. He was just playing hyper aggressive. I think that was the game plan. Just get up in Minnesota's face. You know, they're not going to be able to hang with us if we're right up in their faces. So that's kind of how it went for them. Obviously, Dallas win the final 3-2, as I'm sure all of you already knew. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was a good weekend. I mean, we had a few teams that looked a lot better in like Optic, Seattle. Those are probably the main 2 I would say that looked a lot better this weekend.
I would agree. I think Optic looked a lot better. Seattle's looking good, and Seattle's showing that they're getting more. Like the guys that are struggling are starting to show up a bit more often, but they're still like that bit in inconsistency. I think Mutineers, considering the situation, they did as well as they could. Be interesting to see who picks Ferro up. Hopefully we see Prestini back soon.
We will. He'll be back. He gets like another 3-week break, and I don't even know if they're at the next event. So I think he'll be back.
And then obviously, I mean, we've talked about it enough, but LA Gorillas need to go back to the drawing board definitely, and New York as well. Like they need to just go back and rethink these changes that they've tried making, and I don't know, try and come up with the best they can, and
I mean,
try and get some
yeah,
improvements.
they just like I've touched on earlier, they both just looked awful. I don't really have much else to say. You need to go away, sort out whatever issues you've got ongoing behind the scenes. I think there might be a bit of like side splits between, or like a team split between Attach and Zuma and Accuracy and Temp, because I know that Accuracy and Temp wanted Happy on the team. Don't know if Zuma and Attach did. And it clearly didn't go very well for them. So
I think we're going into a 3-week break now. So this has kind of been the talk that these teams that aren't performing very well still, is this going to be the moment when we start to see actual team changes and players move around teams? I expect we might start seeing more teams picking up some subs like we did with LA. So we might see some more amateurs getting picked up, possibly. I think this next 3 weeks is a great moment for teams to switch things up because it gives them plenty of time to practice with whatever changes they make. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see, like, if LA Gorillas and New York change any players. I don't know if LA Gorillas will change players. They might change their starting roster.
I think LA Gorillas try and stick with that roster.
They might. I wonder if they'll bring Lacefield back on for some and put one of the other guys on the new guys on the bench, maybe.
I think that team's too hard to speculate with, though. Obviously there's some stuff going on behind the scenes with Saints and that. So I think this 3-week break is going to benefit the teams. You know, they can all go away, especially the ones that have made changes or want to make changes, which is looking like London as well. That they can go away, take their time, learn each other, learn the game a little bit more before this next event that obviously only 3/4 of the teams are attending, so the other guys get an even longer break. But we go from a 3-week break into 3 weeks of consistent tournaments, so it's going to be pretty hectic schedule for the teams after these kind of rest weeks. I kind of like the little rest 3 weeks. It gives, like I said, it gives them a bit of time to go away and rest and recuperate a little bit. So
yeah, I mean, we've got the 3-week break. I think it'll be good. I think it gives teams a lot more time to try things and get this practice that they need. Obviously, the teams that aren't going to be in Dallas, it's going to be an even longer, a 4-week break. So even more downtime for them, which will be a bit odd probably for some of them. But I mean, looking at the teams for Dallas home series, which is next, you've got Seattle, Paris, Florida, Toronto, Chicago, Minnesota, Dallas, and LA Gorillas. So I mean, Toronto and Paris back. I think Chicago will be looking good. ROKKR obviously coming off that's grand finals, not quite making it, but plenty of time for them to practice and try again in Dallas.
I mean,
it'll be interesting.
Let's be honest. This is probably going to be between 3 teams in Chicago, Minnesota, and Dallas. I'm really looking forward to that Chicago versus Minnesota game. Jesus, that's going to be an absolute storm of the series.
If ROKKR beats Chicago, they've beat the 2 of the top teams, and they've only lost to Dallas, and even then, it's not like Dallas smoked them.
No,
I'd be almost saying Minnesota is a top 3 team if they beat Chicago.
I think you'd have to wait until the end of the tournament, because obviously if they then go on and beat maybe Dallas, then if they beat Chicago and Dallas, to me they're the second best team in the game, which is weird considering they beat the best team in the game. But I still think Atlanta are the best team. You know, Minnesota just would be getting to that kind of level, I think, is what you'd be looking at. But obviously we got about 3 weeks to wait, so
we've got 3 weeks. A lot could happen in this 3 weeks regarding players. So I'm sure, obviously, the week before on that episode, we'll be making our predictions by then, and hopefully have a lot more information to work with.
Yeah. And there's not really too much else to touch on. Maybe just talk about challenges briefly. Still nothing. I don't really want to dwell on this too much, but...
No, but we talked about it last week about the fact that they keep just announcing who's won it, and no one has any idea. It's like this week again. It just suddenly there was a point between matches that, oh, I've got a card here, and we've got the winners of the third, second, and first place of challenges, and it was kind of just like the announcer and the crowd, especially, were just a bit like,
Who are these guys? Like, what?
We don't know anything.
It's weird.
And,
I
mean, yeah.
I don't want to talk about it too much because we keep ranting about it.
And another thing that improves over time, hopefully.
I think again the challenges is the learning
curve.
curve.
Overall, great weekend in LA.
Best weekend so far.
Yeah, best weekend other than London because we were there.
But as in the best one to watch, and I think production level. Obviously, London had a lot of production problems.
Agreed.
So production level,
I think
definitely
this
the best
has been
weekend.
The smoothest.
Good way to put it.
Yeah, on production side.
Really good way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't really got any more final thoughts, so unless you do, we'll probably start to look at wrapping that up. So thank you everyone for listening, whether you're watching this live obviously on Twitch, twitch.tv/camallenn, or if you're listening to us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anything. We're on loads of different audio platforms, so whatever you prefer to listen to, just search up CDL this week and you'll find us there. I mean, we're pretty cool, so I think you should definitely be listening. If you're not already, you should be subscribed on YouTube as well, because
exactly. Yeah.
And
even if you've watched this live, go to the YouTube tonight when it's up. Go give the YouTubers subscribe. Go drop a like on the video. That'd be appreciated. Also, if you listen on audio platforms, make sure you follow. If you're on Apple, feel free to leave us a 5-star review because we're
5-star worthy.
Obviously, with the predictions such as ROKKR beating Atlanta, you don't get. You
don't get that anywhere else. Let's be honest. There's no other podcast. There's nowhere else you're going to get people making smart predictions, as I would like to put it.
How many things in these episodes have we said that need to happen that we've predicted, and then within the next weeks they have happened and we've been right?
Mate, imagine if we were known. Imagine if we were known people, and we'd be getting so much gas on social media. What have I predicted? The only person that thought Toronto would actually take a Chicago close. I predicted ROKKR to beat FaZe. We said about the Optic role change. We said about...
I predicted casters getting announced. I predicted skins being announced. I predicted CDL playlist coming. I think we talked about trophies happening in Atlanta and stuff. There was a lot of things that we've made points about, and then, oh wait, they've happened the next week. So
it's almost like we know what we're talking about, yet no one knows who we are. So if anyone wants to juice us anyway, give us a little bit of gas. You know, we're smart people. More people need to know. We're out here trying to do our best, and we are doing our best. I think we're doing a pretty good job so far. Obviously, 9 episodes into this podcast, and we're going to keep going almost every week. I think we might miss one in a couple of weeks because Horizontal's away or something, but we'll let you know when that's happening. But yeah, thank you for listening. Definitely go and drop us a follow on Twitter because we're starting to post kind of like short little clips of the kind of key talking points of the podcast at CDL this week on Twitter. And then if you want to follow me on Twitter at camallenn with 2 N's, or if you want to follow Horizontal, it's at it's at HZL_G because he's fake and doesn't have the correct at. There we go. I knew that would work.
Wow.
But yeah, thank you everyone for listening. Unless Horizontal has any more final words, we're going to look to wrap it up there. So thank you everyone for watching, and we will catch you next week.
Yeah, bye.